That might be too much light.
Might be too much?
Yeah, because the camera's...
it's facing that
yeah.
way. Yeah.
I think this will be fine along with my flashlight. Will be all right. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get off the oil dipstick housing, and then we're going to be taking off the air inlet. And I've not done many of these. I think I've done maybe 2 or 3. So this is kind of Dylan's specialty here. Alright, the next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking off this plastic cover that covers up the accelerator assembly. Alright, and you can see this accelerator cable, that's pretty bad. We're going to be replacing that. Alright, so we've got the accelerator cable off, and we've also got this breather hose assembly off. That's out of the way. Now I'm going to remove these studs so we can get the heater that superheats the air when the engine's cold out of the way. Alright. Here's the last stud and the ground for the heater. And there it is. And this guy preheats the air that's coming into the engine when it's cold, rather than using glow plugs to preheat the chamber that the piston sits in. This guy gets super hot, superheats the air coming in when it's cold, so that the engine starts easier. Alright, so the next thing to come off is going to be our accelerator control block, and that way we can get down to the fuel injector lines. Alright, so we're going to start getting the fuel lines off, fuel injector lines, and they're actually ran together in 2 sets, 2 sets of 3. So this first set is actually cylinders 1, 2, and 4. So that's where we're going to go first. So we're just about to the point where we're going to get this first set of lines from the injection pump and going to the actual fuel injectors. So there's that first set. Alright, so we're going to stick those out of the way. Fuel's still kind of warm. We'll get these guys out of the road, and then we're going to put something in the air inlet to keep stuff we don't want in there out. Just about got the inside set of lines out. I'll tell you what, these were quite a bit more difficult than the front set, because there's a whole lot of stuff in the way. The thing we're going to do is we're going to have to take off the valve cover, because the injectors live inside of the head. Alright, and then we got valve covers off. Alright, and we can see the valves, the rocker arms and the push rods, and the injectors live down below those. So we're going to have to take off, it looks like, the exhaust rockers. So At the shop, we've been using these trays for parts and tools when we're working on top of the truck, and these trays are really inexpensive. I don't know if you can get them in other places. We happen to find these at Harbor Freight for like $3 a piece. So if you're doing this kind of work, you probably ought to get some of those. And when you're working, especially with the diesel, holy cow, you better be ready to get yourself dirty. So I've got the exhaust valve rockers off, cylinders 5 and 6, and then these front cylinders, man, I'll tell you what, it's just so much easier. I wish it was all open like these guys are, but it is what it is. We adapt and we conquer. Now there's 4 valves per cylinder on these guys. And so I'm taking off just the exhaust side. So another one. Another one. Another one. All right. So now the next step is the feed tubes that come in from this side of the head, okay, and then they come all the way in here, and that's what delivers the fuel to the actual injector. Okay, all right, so in order to get these feed tubes out, you're gonna need special tool. All right, special tool that we've designed just for doing this particular job. All right, so it's Shorty Screwdriver Flat Blade Special Tool 001. Anyway, we're going to take this in here, just where those lines threaded on, and you're going to carefully just kind of pry. All right, let's do another one. Okay, then we're going to carefully pry, and it should come right out. Let's do this one with this other hand so you can see it a little better. All right, so I'm right down on it, and then I pry it out. All right, and here's what the feed tubes look like. All right, so it's got an O-ring right there to seal, and then the fuel enters here. All right, comes straight through the tube, and then out this side into the injector. All right, so we've got all the feed tubes out. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start pulling the injector. So this bolt right here is the bolt that was holding down the rocker arm. Okay, so I'm going to take that bolt right in the center of the injector. There's a hole that I can screw this bolt into. All right, and once that bolt is in there, I can wiggle and jiggle, and there's our injector. All right. Okay, so just so you see the differences between the non-electronic controlled fuel injectors and just the pressure fired fuel injectors on the diesels. This is a 2006 Dodge 2500 Bighorn series, and as you can tell, if you look down right down here, that's one of the fuel injectors. That's #1 cylinder fuel injector, and it's got electrical connectors hooked up to it. All right, so it's also what they call the common rail. Down here, all the lines that go to the fuel injectors are hooked to a common rail, a single rail. Okay, so there's the back 3. All right, so just to show you a little something here, so you see that hole right there. Okay, that is where the fuel delivery tube comes in. So here's my tube, right, and then that tube sits right like that. All right, with that injector in place and that tube comes in, to let the fuel in and through the injector when it's time to fire. And then that smaller hole above it, all right, a little teeny hole, that's the fuel return hole, so that whatever fuel doesn't get pushed through the injector has a way for the pressure to get back into the return side of the system. All right, and right here, these are the O-rings, and I thought it was brass, but it looks more like it's copper. Okay, and that goes again on the end of the injector where the nozzle goes down through the head. And there's my O-ring that seals the fuel so that it doesn't come up through the top and into this area here, because we don't want that to happen. And then this O-ring right here is for that fuel nozzle that goes into the injector from the outside of the head. Alright, so this injector has the new O-ring on. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this lower seal on. And what I used to do that with is, right now I've got a 10mm socket. So I'm going to stick that over the end because it should go on with a little bit of resistance. And I'm going to push that all the way down to the bottom. Alright, it needs that resistance because I don't want to go to put it inside of the cylinder and have that fall off. That would not be good. Okay, so we've got everything put back together. We've broken a couple of lines loose so we can bleed the air out, and we're going to see if she'll start. Say hi, Dylan.
What's going on, guys? Just about got her. Again.